Okay, this is an investment problem where we're given a formula, and when we use it, we'll end up having to solve the equation by factoring. So here it is. At the end of 2 years, P dollars invested at an interest rate R, compounded annually, increases to an amount A dollars given by A equals P times 1 plus R squared. All right, this is where the formula is, right here. Okay, so here's the problem. Find the interest rate if $2,000 increased to $2,420 in 2 years. Write the answer as a percent. So we're given that this is the formula after 2 years. What happens? And by the way, yes, this is a mouthful. This is one of those problems that you think, what? So basically you have to read it a few times, but this is a real life formula that can be used. And what we're looking for is the interest rate R. So we want to be able to plug in what A is and what P is. So we got to read carefully. All right, we're going to find the interest rate. So basically, we should be able to tell what A is and what P is. And the big question is R. We're going to have to figure out what R is. So A, that's the amount it increases to, right? Well, what did it increase to? 2420 right here. So that's 2420. What was the original amount? That's the P. That's how many were invested. How much was invested? Well, that was the $2,000. That's what it started out. And we don't know R. So we're going to take this formula, A equals P times 1 plus R squared. And we're going to plug in these numbers for A and P. So we've got 2420 equals 2,000, 1 plus R squared. Oops, I put in 200, and we want to, of course, put in 2,000. Okay, yikes. Well, I need to simplify this over on the right-hand side. So the first thing I need to do is square that binomial. So I'm going to need a lot of space here. I'm going to get rid of this R for now. 2420 equals 2,000 times 1 plus R times 1 plus R. So 2420. Now I'm going to do the FOIL method and first multiply these out. If you want, you could do 2,000 times one of the parentheses first. I think it's easier to first square just the 1 plus R. So first, outer, inner, last. All right, I'm just going to write the R squared term first. So we have R squared plus 2R plus 1. Now we have to do the distributive property. So we've got 2420 equals 2,000 R squared plus 4,000 R plus 2,000. This is going to be a long problem, but this is what the real life situation is. So, you could use your calculator to do some of this, although I don't think we're going to need it. Now, I've got a quadratic because I have R squared. So I have to set it equal to 0. So I have to subtract 2420 from both sides. Okay, so 2,000 R squared plus 4,000 R. Now if I subtract 2420 from both sides, I get minus 420 on this side. All right, what's the next step? Factor. Yikes! We can do it. We've got to look for the greatest common factor. So you're looking at 2,000 R squared plus 4,000 R minus 420. See if you can get it and factor that. I think 20 is the greatest common factor. Let's see. If we factor out a 20, we get 100 R squared plus 200r minus 21. Yuck! That's still no fun to factor. 100r squared plus 200r minus 21. But it can be done. All right, you can do trial factors, or you could do the sum and product. So see if you can factor that. If you could do that, you've got factoring down. See if you could factor 100r squared plus 200r minus 21. Okay, I'm going to take that and do it on the next page here. All right, so how would I do this? Well, I could do trial factors. Okay. And some of you might have done it that way. And if you do it correctly, it's 10r minus 1 times 10r plus 21. But let's say you had trouble getting those. I'm going to show you how you could have done this with the product and the sum as well. I'm going to have you see it all at once though. So I'm just going to write down all where the product is going to have to be 100 times negative 21. So the product is negative 2100 and the sum is 200. So I'm going to put it on pause here for a minute and just list all the factors of 2100. You can get out a calculator if you need it. Actually, these aren't all the pairs of numbers. You can keep going, but you get the idea. You just start seeing, does 14 go into it? Does 15 go into it? Does 16? Does 17? Does 18? Does 19? 20 goes into it, for instance, and you can keep going until you list all of them. There's a lot more pairs of factors, but I can't fit them all on this page, so I'm just going to see if we could find it so far. Since the sum is positive, the bigger number is positive. And since the product is negative, the other number is the opposite sign. And we're just seeing if any pairs so far add up to 200. And yes, there it is. So once you have the product and sum, there's a lot of ways that you might have gotten the problem done from here, because I've shown you many different ways to factor if you've looked at all my factoring videos. So one way of doing it is that shortcut method where you take the first, the 100r squared, with one of these, negative 10, let's say, r, and you factor out the greatest common factor, which is 10r, and that's 10r minus 1, and so that tells you that's one of the factors. So once you have 10r minus 1 here, right, you know that's one of the factors. And you could say, all right, what is the other factor? 10r times what's going to give you 100r squared? 10r, and then negative 1 times what's going to give you 21? It's going to be plus 21. So in other words, that's just a little review of factoring. All right, so then we take each of these factors that have a variable and set it equal to 0. And solve. Now this one is going to give you a negative rate, and interest rates can't be negative, so this one is not a possibility. All right, let's look over here. 10r is 1, so r is 1/10. Yay, that means the rate is 1/10, but that's a fraction. We need to write that as a percent. How do you write a fraction as a percent? You multiply by 100%. So the final answer to this one, whoo, wasn't this a blast, is 10%. So the answer is the interest rate was 10%. And yeah, I admit, it's a lot of work. Hopefully you wouldn't have that on a test where you were timed in a short amount of time, but this is something you should be able to work out. Maybe not quite as quickly as I did it, but you could go back and do this problem on your own. See if you can do it all the way through from the beginning. Whoops, where is it? I'm going back too far here. Here it is. And see if you can go through all the steps and end up that the interest rate was 10%. Fun, fun, fun. Not really, but sometimes word problems are, a little bit tricky. Just work at it. You can do it. That's it for now.